Oh?
I know in a relationship like ours, the girl's not supposed to be the one to ask, but I can't help it. And please, think before answering.
That I promise.
James.
Welcome back with more experience, and welcome back with a video where I try to rank the Bond girls, but also the Bond henchwomen, so to speak. You know, I think it's really hard with some of those to really categorize them as, is it 100% a Bond girl or 100% a henchwoman? Sometimes it's a bit a mix of both. How do I rank those? The idea of ranking women according to their attractiveness or something like that, or sexiness, that's not a concept that that I can get behind, I would say. But, you know, I will factor in things like how is the character written and how does the actress portray the role, how convincing is she, the charisma of the actress, the acting ability, but also of course the beauty and, you know, let's face it, the sexiness plays a role in it, because these women, these roles, you know, they are written to be that. You know, it's about being an attractive woman, so that also has to factor in, and it's of course part of the fascination of the Bond series. Let's start the ranking. It's a top 20. All those Bond girls are, you know, this is the upper echelon for me. Those are the Bond girls that I really like to watch on film. Number 20 is Miss Caruso, played by Madeline Smith, Live and Let Die. Why number 20? Because I really wanted to have her in it, because I really like her character, but you know, it's almost a cameo. Is it even a 5-minute scene? She's the girl in Roger Moore's apartment, so it's an important scene. It's the very first scene of Roger Moore's James Bond, and it's also the first and one of the very few scenes where you see James Bond at home, and it's the scene where M and Miss Moneypenny come to visit him. She's an, I think, Italian secret agent, and you know, it's a very short role, but she's very charming and funny in it, and you know, I always liked her. You know, Live and Let Die is not my favorite Bond movie, but she's one of the highlights of that movie to me. Number 19, Manuela, played by Emily Bolton, Moonraker. Again, like with Miss Caruso, it's a very small role. She's not the main Bond girl. She's one of those Bond allies who's working with him, in this case in Rio de Janeiro. She's playing a Brazilian girl. It's a charming performance. Number 18, one of the most controversial things on that list, Stacey Hutton, played by Tanya Roberts, A View to a Kill, 1985. Most people wouldn't vote her as one of their favorite Bond girls. You know, maybe she's even the number 1 or 2 worst Bond girl of all time to many people, also Bond fans. But I never really understood the criticism. You know, something that I've seen videos where people complain about her screaming, "James, James, James!" You know, when they're trying to escape from a fire. But, you know, what's wrong with that? You know, she's portraying a woman that's afraid of dying because of fire, of getting burned in a fire. People always point out that she's such a bad actress, and maybe she isn't. Maybe she won't win an Oscar, but you know, I don't think that's bad acting. That she really puts across that she's very, very afraid of dying, and of course she screams very loud, and people say it's annoying how she screams, but you know, it's a life-threatening situation. I think that's the appropriate way to act in such a scene, and all in all, I think she's not a great actress, but I don't see her as such a bad actress as people say, and I think, you know, she was a kind of an 80s icon, and I think she's beautiful, and I have many complaints about that movie, but she's not one of my complaints about the movie. Number 17, a fan favorite for many, Xenia Onatopp, played by Famke Janssen, GoldenEye. Yeah, I think she's great in it. She's she seems threatening, like a big threat, but also funny at the same time. She has some of the most explicit scenes, sex scenes of all the Bond movies. She's kind of low in my, like I said, all the top 20. They're all in all. There must be more like there are like 40 women I could have voted, and this is a top 20. So I like all those, but. Why is she not higher? Like most people, I said, like most people would have her higher. I think she's a bit of a caricature of a certain type of Bond henchwoman. In this case, there were previous like incarnations of her character in previous movies, often in worse movies than Golden Eyes, but I think it's a bit of a copy-paste of a character that was done better in a previous movie. We'll talk about this later, but nothing wrong with her. So she's number 17, which means she's pretty high for me in terms of Bondwoman, and Famke Janssen, great actress. Number 16, Solitaire, played by Jane Seymour for Live and Let Die. I also think this is a kind of a fan favorite. Many would have her higher, but I don't think her character is written that well. And I'm a kind of a Jane Seymour fan in the sense that in the 90s when I was young, the Medicine Woman show, Dr. Quinn, was on TV all the time, and it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, I guess, to admit it, but I really liked that series. I really liked her in that series as well. I think she's developed into a great actress, and I've also seen other things with her, like from the 80s, and she became a good actress, but this must have been one of her first, if not her first, acting job, at least in such a big, important role. And she doesn't really. I'm not really convinced by her acting that character, and the actor and the character, as I said, isn't even written that well to begin with. It's a very cliched kind of character, and I don't really like the movie Live and Let Die, as I said before. But I'm a Jane Seymour fan in a way, so she has to be in the top 20. Number 15. Iconic but often forgotten, Sylvia Trench, played by Eunice Gayson, and even before Maud Adams and before Léa Seydoux, she's the one who played multiple Bond movies. She was the very, very, very first Bond girl. Her, not Ursula Andress, is the first Bond girl, and she's the reason. Her character is the reason for the very iconic James Bond, for that line. Because that's the very first scene with Sean Connery as James Bond when they're in the casino, and she's the one, of course, who when she introduces herself to him, who's saying, "My name's Trench, Sylvia Trench, and you are," and then he says, "Bond, James Bond." So his Bond, James Bond, it's only a good line because of what she says before that. So it's really like they're flirting with each other with that line, so that Sean Connery is repeating her line, so that James Bond, that's the only reason why that's there. And besides that, she's great. She's very, she's not in many scenes. She reappears for a very short scene in From Russia with Love, in the same role, and so she doesn't have much screen time in the Bond movies. But she's in the few scenes she has, she's very charismatic and very elegant woman. 1962, 1963, the first two Bond movies, those are like the last. This is like the end of an era, and she's one of like the old school 50s, 1950s Hollywood era. She has this elegance that female leads used to have in the golden era of cinema, 40s, 50s. So she's great in that way, that it's a unique character that's really dates in a positive way those first two movies to a very old-timey time. Number 14. For this ranking I also decided to include the unofficial Bond movies, because in Never Say Never Again, not a very good movie, but two of the highlights are the Bondgirls. Those are two of my favorite Bondgirls. Number 14 is Fatima Blush, played by Barbara Carrera. That's what I was talking about with Xenia on your top. That's like the blueprint for Xenia on a top, and it's since it's the original, it's acted out better. I would say it's more the madness of the actress. That's Carrera bringing that to the table. And Famke Janssen, does a good job, but she just, it's like a copy of that initial spark that Barbara Carrera has in her portrayal, like a mad henchwoman. It's one of the few things in Never Say Never Again that are working. So 13, Domino der Wahl, played by Claudine Auger. Thunderball, the movie that Never Say Never Again was a remake of. One of the most beautiful women to ever be part of a Bond movie. Maybe not the most charismatic, maybe she has a shy charisma. And the movie itself, she's in the right movie because it's this lush, beautiful looking and sounding movie. She's one of the reasons why Thunderball is such a great escapism, such a great hangout movie. You really want to be with those people in those places. Number 12, again Domino, but this time Domino Petacci, played by Kim Basinger, and again Never Say Never Again. I prefer the unofficial Domino to the official Domino. Some people, I've seen people criticizing her portrayal as wooden, and I disagree. And number 11 is Maud Adams, and it's both her roles. She's the only Bond girl. She's not the only Bond girl, as I said, to appear twice or multiple times in Bond movies, but she's the only to appear as two separate Bond girls in two separate movies. She was Andrea Anders in The Man with the Golden Gun, and the better of her two portrayals, but I decided to make an amalgamation of them for the purpose of this video. The other one is the more iconic part, it's Octopussy in Octopussy. So she's the only Bond girl where the movie was named after her, the Bond girl. And it's a great portrayal, she has great chemistry with Roger Moore. I totally understand why they decided to recast her, because, they should have married in real life. They're such a great couple together. The top 10, and number 10 is Triple X, aka Anya Amasova, played by Mrs. Ringo Starr, but she hadn't yet met Ringo at that time, so it's still her name, Barbara Bach, of course, I'm referring to Barbara Bach. Fantastic role, the way the role is written, must be the first time when the Bond girl is a Bond ally. It's like a Felix Leiter, but this time not working for the CIA, but for the KGB. I always enjoyed this dynamic of the MI6 agent working together with the very sexy KGB agent. And it's a great movie, and she's great in it. Again, maybe one of those Bond girls that aren't really great actresses, but she's charismatic, and I'm a huge Beatle fan, so I love her in the sense that a Beatle fan loves the Beatle vibes, like Linda McCartney or people like that. So, in that way she's kind of an important Bond girl to me. Like she's almost part of the family, to us Beatle diehard fans. The wives of the Beatles are like we love them like mothers or like aunts or something like that. Number 9, Magda, played by Christina Wayborn, henchwoman, not a classic Bond girl, but she's like, in the end, it's hard to say she's part Bond girl and part henchwoman, because in the beginning she's with Khan, with the bad guy, but Bond kind of wins her over, and in the end she's one of the good guys. So she is one of the few Bond girls with that kind of character development, I would say. And she's very sexy, I would say. Different reasons for all those Bond girls, Bond women, henchwomen, why I rank them this or that. But with her, she's really great to look at in the movie, and I also like the part she plays in that movie. Number 8, again, one of the more, if not most controversial things on my list. It's like the Tanya Roberts thing, it's a Bond girl that often gets ridiculed, or like the Tanya Roberts thing where it gets misunderstood as anti-feminist, or that it's not a modern portrayal of a woman. Well, maybe it's not a modern portrayal of a woman, but I don't think it's misogynist or anything. Even for the time, I think it's a bit of a misunderstood portrayal. It's Britt Ekland as Mary Goodnight, again the ally Bond girl. She's also working for MI6. She's his contact in Thailand. I think that Britt Ekland, I'm kind of a fan of especially her 70s work, also Wicker Man and things like that. I really like the energy of Britt Ekland. I think she has a very good comedic timing. She has a very funny, energetic way of portraying. Especially in that movie, she gets flack for, or the writers who wrote her part get flack for her not being a feminist modern woman. She's a secret agent. The same role could have been written for a male ally as well, who's not as competent as Bond. So to make Bond look more competent, so I don't think it has something to do with her being a female. She has to have some competence in the first place to have that job. So I don't really see the criticism here of the way she's written. As I said, I think she's, kind of a comedy relief character in a way, and she does it good. Number 7, Natalia Simonova, played by Isabella Scorupco, GoldenEye. This is, now we're really in the upper echelon. This is a Bond girl, or this is an actress. Everything works with her and her portrayal. She's a great actress. She's charismatic. She looks the part, and also the way the part is written. It's really she plays an important role in the scheme of things of GoldenEye. The full package. But she definitely couldn't be higher as my number 6, which is maybe the most iconic, the most classic Bond girl. From the first movie, Dr. No, it's Ursula Andress as Honey Rider. Probably the most, it's subjective of course, but if there's something as an objectivity about the beauty of human beings, of not just women, she has to be one of the most beautiful women, not just in Bond movies, but in movies general. So. Number 5, Teresa Di Vincenzo, played by the great late Diana Rigg. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, so I really, throughout her career, I've been you could say I'm a fan of Diana Rigg from the mid-60s onwards, when she played in the Avengers series, the British Avengers, which as a kid I really liked. Then on Her Majesty's Secret Service, iconic Bond girl, and then very, very much later in her career, Game of Thrones. All of those parts and all the other parts that I've seen with her, she always sticks out as something special. She brings something charismatic and very unique charisma, and a great actress also. And she's in a fantastic movie too, so this is again like with Honey Rider, this is like a great Bond girl in all possible ways, in all departments. Number 4, Vesper Lind, played by Eva Green, Casino Royale. One of the, again, this is a bit like with Diana Rigg. Fantastic actress, fantastically written part for her, and also spectacularly attractive, and very good chemistry with Daniel Craig. From all the Bond women, it's more Bond women than Bond girls in modern times. In the Daniel Craig era, of course, with her it's the best chemistry that Daniel Craig had, I would say. Number 3, the last Bond Henchwomen, so the last of the evil Bond girls. It's Fiona Volpe, played by Luciana Paluzzi, Thunderball. Again, the ultimate hangout movie, the ultimate I would like to be in that place with those people movie. And Thunderball is one of my first memories of watching a movie, and possibly the first Bond movie I've ever watched. And so she became like an archetype, like a blueprint of a certain type of woman that I'm attracted to. I think she's, in the charisma department, she's probably my number 1. I think she's the most charismatic Bond girl. She has a bit of this Brigitte Bardot presence, Brigitte Bardot charisma that's several or many actresses in the late 50s, early 60s in the big Brigitte Bardot time after the success of Brigitte. And if you've seen any other videos on my channel, I'm a big Brigitte Bardot fan. I've done several videos on her because it's this early 60s woman archetype that I'm really into. Number 2, Cara Milovi, played by Mariam Davo. It's a bit the opposite, you know. The Fiona Volpe is really, the fascination with Fiona Volpe is like she's that femme fatale and she's a bad, she's a villain and she's a dangerous woman. And Mariam Davo, her portrayal is more the winged dove, you know, the innocent, nice girl who gets put into this dramatic circumstances in the living daylights in her movie. But she does it perfect, and what she does best, I think, from all the Bond movies, you know, most people would disagree and would say Eva Green or Diana Rigg are the number 1 and 2 for a romantic relationship with Bond, you know, not just a one-night stand or an affair, but really Bond falling in love with a woman. I personally think this is the best depiction of that. This is, to me, the most believable romance, you know, which is more than just a short fling, but you know, really you believe that they're really in love with each other. And it's really, to me, it was always when the Living Daylights end, and 2 years later in the next movie there are other Bond girls, of course. It's like, oh, what happened between them? I would have wanted them to, you know, really get married and have children together. They're like such a lovely couple. And number 1, this is the third of the very controversial picks, I would say. You know, the others were Britt Eklund and Tanya Roberts. This is Jill St. John as Tiffany Case in Diamonds Are Forever. You know, Diamonds Are Forever is in my top 10 Bond movies, which is, you know, to many people outrageous. But she's one of the main reasons why that is, because I think Diamonds Are Forever works best if you view it as a comedy, as a very funny movie. It's not a very thrilling spy thriller, and you know, she's so funny in it. You know, she's very witty. The dialogue is written perfectly for her and Sean Connery. Like Mary Goodnight, she's really her charisma, her sexiness comes really from her look, from the way she looks at things or people, the way, you know, what she does with her face. You know, it's very funny, and she's also the right person for that more seedy, sleazy early 70s Bond. You know, it's not a dangerous femme fatale like Fiona Volpe. It's more very believable early 70s, you know, an early 70s woman, you know, that's kind of feminist in a way. You know, that's when late 60s, early 70s, when that early feminism, or that second wave, I think it's the second wave feminism started. And you know, she's quite believable in that, a woman that knows what she wants and who's a bit like a man who takes things in her own hands, so to speak. The movie gets often criticized that in the third act, then again she gets reduced to a silly girl, but you know, I can forgive that. The movie, as I said, it's not a very serious movie, and overall I think she's a strong woman in that movie, and you know, I like her. I think she's funny and charming. So that was my ranking of the Bondgirl / Bondwomen / Bond Henchwomen top 20. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and until next time, thank you very much.